Hi, everyone. Welcome to Radiant Pearls Ministries. I'm Justina Sanchez.
And I'm Jeanette Bradley. We're happy that you joined us today. We would like to introduce you to the wonderful Karen Stonier.
Hello.
Karen, will you tell us what is your favorite dessert?
Probably if I could only have one, I love almost every dessert, but it would be vanilla ice cream and hot fudge.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Right up my alley. So thank you so much for being with us today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
The first thing I'd probably tell those of you watching is I'm a mom of 4 amazing grown kids. I have 3 daughters and a son, and it's been the joy of my life to raise those kids and to watch what God has done in their lives. So being a mother is such a gift. The other thing you would maybe want to know about me, just to feel like you know me a little bit, is I met my husband years ago, over 40 years ago, at church. It was an early morning prayer breakfast. And I didn't know anybody. I went in and he happened to be leading it. So we got married shortly, maybe a year and a half later. And most of from 26 on, I have been involved in ministry at church. Not that I ever wanted to, but that was God's call in my life. And so it's been a journey of over 40 years now, working with little kids, babies, teenagers, parents, marriage, all kinds of different variety of working with people in church ministry. So that's a joy. We still love it because we love people, and have heard some horrific stories of the pain and suffering that, for me, more women, but a lot of times couples go throughout life, and just the heartbreaks and heartache. And it's an honor for us to serve God and coming alongside people during difficult times, and just trying to be there and represent God's love to them, that He's there even in hard times. So a lot of my life has just been with women, younger women, biblical guidance. I'm not a counselor, but I do listen, and I try to point them into the way that the Lord, how He's there for them and what His Word says to help them in times of difficulty. So that has been a great journey. And now we're in a good season where we're at the retirement age, but we still love people. We still love to have people over our house, the people who are struggling with their marriage, they're newlyweds and they can't communicate. And so our lives, we just enjoy people, whether having fun, having people over, or trying to help them through a hard time.
Well, you and your husband are definitely a blessing to so many people and to us personally. You guys have blessed us tremendously over the years, and it's been fun to watch your journey. We got to come in on the tail end of it, and this year, you guys have a new baby. This amazing book, Get Out of Control. Tell us, what prompted you to write this book?
So it's interesting, for years, working with women, and one of the main issues that always came out, whether it was a teenage girl, whether it was a newlywed or a woman who was in her 60s, there was always this issue that kept resurfacing. And it was this control that they were so controlling. These women that had grown kids in their 30s, the mothers would want to tell their sons what to do, or tell their daughter, you need to do this and that. And obviously I saw it in the women around me before I saw it in myself. And I wanted to have something small to give someone to help them through these issues of control. And there's a lot of books written on control. One of them I read, it was called, he's a doctor, a psychologist, therapist, and it's called Control Freak by Dr. Les Parrott. He knows all about it. He studied it, and yet he knows himself he is a control freak. So I read several books on it, but I wanted something simple. and something easy to read that I could give to women and help them try to work through this issue in their life. So that's what really prompted it. In the process, I also had been being made aware of my control, which I didn't see. As we all have blind spots, it's easy not to see that.
So there's a quote that I want to read from your book where you reference love focused, and you say, some of the greatest damage done to love occurs as a result of our attempts to control the outcomes in our lives because love is always sacrificed to control.
So really what he is saying in that quote is that if we look at the biblical definition of love, all of us have our own definitions, which may or may not be really what love is, because we see love in Jesus as God said that God is love, and he sacrificed and gave. And if we are loving our children, or a family member, a coworker, a roommate, if you're trying to control them, you're not loving them. And so love is sacrifice, because you're imposing upon them, that person, what you want or what you think or how you feel about something. And so you're not loving that person when you're trying to put upon them something that you want the certain outcome for.
Yeah, that's good. That's so good. And I know with the relationships that I have in life, my heart's desire is to love them well. So can you share with our viewers maybe what are some ways to identify controlling behaviors?
So, interesting story on this. When I started writing this and trying to identify it for myself, and then also for those who would be reading it, I started asking questions. And I wrote down some questions for myself, like, I always want to tell my husband, no, get in that lane. Don't be behind that big truck. Mm-hmm. Or turn here, this is faster. And as I started thinking of ways that I was helping my husband, my 11, 12-year-old granddaughter we were with them for the weekend. And I wrote the list out and I said, Kennedy, here, read this list and tell me what you think of it. See if you're controlling or not. So she went through the list, and one of them is, are you a backseat driver? Mm-hmm. Another question is, do you always have to be the one to explain the directions for a game or the instructions on something? Oftentimes you want to, somebody might be doing something, a child or somebody at work, and you say, oh, here's a better way. You're just helping, but there's a better way to do that. And you could save time and you could save money on certain things. But oftentimes when we have to be the one telling the instructions or the game or which way to go or how to chop the vegetables or, because we know the best way, then that's a sign that you probably are. And there's a list in chapter 2 of those questions. My granddaughter was like, I'm controlling. She has a younger brother, and she's always telling him this and telling him that. And so even at a young age, she was guilty. She said, yes, I'm controlling.
Wow. That's crazy. That's such an early age. And that list is great in chapter 2. So you talked about what control looks like. So tell us why someone might try to control someone else.
Right. So the reasons that we often come up with are hidden in the heart. If you read a lot of the books on the issues of control, they will address past traumas or maybe childhood things, family of origin, where a mom or a dad, that's what you saw, or you grew up in a single parent home and mom was overprotective, which is another form of saying being controlling. And it took me a while to understand. I didn't realize I was controlling. I had issues of abandonment. And so I was alone a lot. I was out on my own at 16. And for me to cope with my surroundings, whether it was where I was living, my work environment, and then it spills into your relationships.
Right.
is I wanted to feel safe. But it took me a while to get to that core issue of why do I care about how the vegetables are chopped or how my husband's doing something in the house or in the yard or the way he was parenting the kids. Now, don't tell him to do it that way. You need to do it this way. Like I would tell him how to parent our kids. And I was wanting it to be comfortable and safe for me. Sometimes people have traumas and it will trigger events in their life and they don't feel safe. There's fear. There's issues of not feeling loved, which I had those too. I never felt loved. I never had a parent hold me or hug me or affirm me. Mm-hmm. It's affirmation. It's the need to belong. Yeah. And so oftentimes I may come off very prideful and saying things to you because I want you to like me. I want you to affirm me that I'm okay. I'm important. I matter. And it takes, our daughter's a therapist and she's actually helped our family in little things that we don't realize we do or say to keep asking ourselves questions. Why do I have to have it this way? Why am I? And asking the Holy Spirit to show you, because those things, our heart can be so deceptive and we have those blind spots and we don't think. My facade was, no, I'm just helping my husband. No, you're trying to control him and do it your way.
Right.
So there's deeper issues in therapy, counseling. I would highly recommend because that helps you get to the core and then move through those hurts and those wounds from the past.
Right. And I feel like we all do things the way that we think they're supposed to be done.
Yes.
So my way is going to be right. Your way is going to be right to you.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not the same, that's okay.
Yes.
It's not that one is necessarily wrong. It's just when we start imposing our way on other people and insisting that everybody do it our way. Because our right may not be their right. And so I think once we get to the point where we start to look at that and where it shifts into control, that's what you're trying to point out in this great book.
It's just different.
Yeah, I know for me, reading that, it was so eye-opening, and behaviors that I had, not realizing that I was carrying out. I love one of the quotes that you said is, being vulnerable is the pathway to freedom. Can you speak to a little bit of that?
So vulnerability is, some people think that it's, oh, well, I'm open. I share with you and with my friends. I'm transparent, but true vulnerability, it comes when you are with a person where you're safe and you can share things that are in your heart that might not be so pretty, that are maybe kind of ugly, and you're a little ashamed of that. And so all of us, men and women alike, will hide and not be vulnerable because I want to look good to you. I want to look good to my coworkers and other people. And so my true self, I put up a facade and I pretend like everything's okay and I'm good. And, oh, that's not a problem with me. We have this persona. But when you go to the heart and the wounds that we have and some of the heartbreaks, for me to actually share some of my thoughts that are not so good and that I'm a little ashamed of, unless we can get to that place with the safe person where there's love and we can say, this is who I really am and I need help with this. Mm-hmm. And it might not just be control. It can be other issues in our lives. If we tend to be depressed, there's a lot of depression. There's anxiety. But I wouldn't want you to know I'm anxious because you might not like me or you might think less of me. And so if I feel safe with you, and that's what you need to do, is find a safe person that loves you. Because if I can become vulnerable and really share, like, I'm nervous about this or I worry about that, then I can, it's almost like when you get sick and your stomach's upset and then it gets cleaned out, you feel so much better. We have to clean our hearts out. Mm-hmm. And if I can share with you, and that's why therapy, one reason, and counseling are so good, even biblical guidance, is you're getting it out and then somebody's giving you perspective and helping you walk through whatever those things are going on in your heart. But if we just keep the door closed and put the smile on and act like everything's okay, we won't find freedom because we're bearing it. And the vulnerability allows it to come out then and to be addressed and look at it and find out how we can move past it. And then that's where the freedom comes.
That's so good. I'm all about safe people. That's a priority for me in my life. Once you figure out that you need to get out of control, what are some practical ways and practical steps you can take to walk in that?
Right. So one thing is asking yourself the questions. Am I controlling? You have to identify it. And then we want to find out, okay, why am I getting to the root of some of these deeper issues that cause us to, moms controlling their adult kids. Why are they still trying to control them? They're out of the house, they're married, and they're still trying to force no, you shouldn't do that. Don't buy that house. You should change jobs. And it's like, why are they? And it's from a heart of love, but there's deeper issues. And so when you address those issues, and oftentimes it takes professional help, and then you've identified it, you've gone to the root, and now you can take practical steps. A lot of those come from the Bible, just biblical principles that God gives us to live by. And it's the one another's. It's in the relationship. And the foundation of that is loving. So if I'm loving you or trying to love you, I wouldn't be imposing what I think and what I want upon you, because love sacrifices.
Right.
So then if we were going to be spending the afternoon together and we go have lunch and then we might go do something afterwards. Well, I want to go to this restaurant and I want to do this and this is what I want. And I'm not thinking about you. I'm controlling our time together.
Mm-hmm.
I'm controlling what I want and where I feel comfortable. That's not loving. And so the practical thing is being self-aware and then being aware, socially aware, whether it's with a spouse, a roommate, a family member. You have to be socially aware, not just looking at, am I comfortable now? Oh, does this person need water? I'm thirsty. What about them? You're actually getting the focus off of me and my own needs and what I want, and saying, how can I serve you? How can I be of service or help you? That gets my focus off, and then I become aware of your needs, and I'm not trying to control you anymore, but thinking, what does Jeanette want? What does Justina? Do they need this? And then I'm building you up and affirming you. Then I'm no longer controlling you because I'm focusing on your needs and not my own.
Right. And you said in your book as well that your focus when you're with someone is they're the most important thing. They're the most important thing to me right now.
Yes.
And then that's the foundation of that is the love that you're talking about.
And the freedom comes from self. There's another book I quote in there. It's Freedom from Self.
Yeah.
And it's tiny, tiny book. And it's so good because we naturally do love ourselves. We naturally look out for ourselves. And if we can look out and be mindful of the people around us, we're loving them and we're no longer in bondage to ourselves and how we want the day to play out or the circumstances to be. So looking out for others' interests brings freedom. And then there's so many other practical things that you can do. One of them is having that person to be honest with you, that they will be honest and say, when you do this, because, that's not in my heart. I wasn't trying to control you. I just thought you liked that.
Mm-hmm.
And I never asked you. I just, it's like gift giving. Oh, you like something, so you give that gift to that person.
Yeah.
And it's like, they don't like candles. They're allergic to fragrances, but you love them. And so it's that having people be honest to help guide you through that is a real practical step. Memorizing scripture. I think I have in there, not sure what chapter, but some simple things you can do. One of them is simply stopping and being mindful of when you're addressing someone and saying, how can I love them? What do they need right now?
Mm-hmm.
So there are a list of things that just daily that you can, and not give, like so often I want when people are addressing, oh yeah, let's go to, this movie and, oh, you guys, you should go this way, drive the 52 or go. And it's like, let them get there the way they want to.
Right.
And I started and I'm like, nope, don't give direction, instruction, don't help. And the more you stop yourself, it becomes easier to just let go, sit back, and we'll get there the way we get there.
Yes, I know for me, when people come and they're talking and they're like sharing their heart, I'll say, do you want me to listen or do you want my opinion?
Good. That's so good.
Because I need to know going in what you need.
Yes.
So I know how to respond to you in a loving way. How are you needing to receive from me right now?
Good. That's a good practical.
So good. So true. So beautiful. And I want to say thank you so much for writing this book, putting in at the end of every chapter, there's the reflect, respond, and renew. And I felt like that was so key to helping me identify and then walk out what I can do to change my behavior and to be more considerate and love better in my relationships. So can you tell our viewers where they can find your book?
You can go to Amazon, and it's right there in Amazon. You can buy Kindle or paperback.
So what we can do is we can link it in the bottom of our social medias. After the interview, when we put it out, we'll go ahead and link at the bottom a link to where they can purchase your book.
It is also one of our recommended books on our website. It's a great book, and I love that you show us steps, because a lot of times people go, okay, well, I've identified that I need to do this, but I'm not sure how to do it, and how does that look, and then you brought the power of truth on top of it, which is so great. It was hard for me to go through and pick one quote that I really loved about this book, because there are so many, but I wanted to sum it up with this. You say, through many twists and turns in life, we have learned that sorrow and guilt tend to look back. Worry looks ahead. Doubt looks around. But faith looks up. And this is where faith becomes our source of hope. And I just love that. I felt like that was such just a great bow and package, to go on.
Well, and it is, I didn't mention that, but faith and relationship with God is a key to the freedom, because worry and over controlling comes when we don't realize that our God is the creator, and I love the simple little song, he has the whole world in his hands, because he really does. It's his world and we are his children, and he really loves us. And the relationship, the ongoing, just like you have with family members and friends, the more time you spend together, the more you know each other, the more you trust each other. And it's the same with God. The more time that you can spend sitting with him, reading his word, talking with him, you will begin to build this intimacy with him that you can let go of circumstance. You can let go of your kids. When I had babies, I was like, I love them so much, God. What's going to happen to them? And you begin to trust him, and you can't let go of control unless you trust that God really has a situation or has a person or has his hand in our lives, that he loves us. He only wants good for us. And so one of the keys is spending that time with him daily. And that comes by waking up every morning, and it's a choice and a decision that day.
That's right.
Not the past, like you said, and it's not the future. Oh, tomorrow I'll spend a little time with them. It's like, no, I gotta sit with them right now. And it's reconnecting, just like when your family, you live far away, or a friend, and you reconnect and you sit down and you catch up. We really have to do that every morning with God. And as that relationship grows, you have more faith and trust that you can let go of situations, let go of family members that, kids that have gone astray or in drugs or going through something horrific. You have God's peace because you realize God loves them. He's with them. And I can't control it anyway.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And I keep hearing him say, build a history with God. Build a history.
Good.
Let him portray his characteristics in and through your life over every situation, his faithfulness, And so you're right. The more we spend with him day in and day out, we start building that history. We start seeing him work in those situations and let go of the control, knowing he's got it.
Yeah, that's good.
But the more time you spend with him, you also discover not only is he a good and faithful and loving God, he's a fun God. We have so much fun. There is just so much about him still that we have yet to find out.
Yes.
That he's mysterious and he is adventurous.
Yes.
It's a blast.
And he is. He wants our joy to be full.
Yeah.
And so, yes, we will all have painful, difficult times, but the joy comes by choosing that one choice. Lord, I believe your promises. Mm-hmm. And you said, I have come to give them life abundantly. And he wants us to enjoy the goodness of life.
Right.
And the relationships and the beauty that is around us. He said, become like little children. I mean, look at a playground with kids playing and laughing. They're carefree. They're not trying to control anything.
Right.
They are just like having fun. And he does. He said, become the kingdom of God. You must become like a child.
Right.
So I love that. Just the fun and the freedom we can have if we'll become more like kids.
Yep. And everything that he has for us is good.
It is.
Everything.
It is. Well, thank you so much. It's been an honor having you on the show, and we so appreciate your time and your wisdom and everything you've shared with us. We just want to say thank you for being here with us. And thank you for tuning in to another episode of Radiant Pearls Ministries.
Remember, you have strength, you have hope, and you have loveliness. We'll see you next time. In Radiant Pearls Ministries.